All right, Colts Nation, back here with another one, and today this is a topic that probably isn't like a trending discussion or a trending thing, if you will, whatever you want to call that, but it's something that's been on my mind, and well, let's just get right into it, right? Do you remember when a lot of Colts fans were calling for Chris Ballard's job? Now, as some of you may know, been here for a while, appreciate you for that, I have never been one of these Ballard haters. Not that I don't get it at all, it just hasn't been me. In fact, the very first video I ever posted as a standalone Colts show was literally a half-hour rant, my longest video to date, talking about why we should keep Chris Ballard as the GM of the team. Now, ultimately, that did happen, and this was towards the end of the season, going into the offseason or going into the playoffs even, right? This was when that discussion was really first starting to not really first starting to, this was becoming a major thing, right? Now, I do wonder, now that we've hired Shane Steichen, a coach that everybody is excited about, there's no one that would view Shane Steichen as a bad hire, correct? No one in their right mind. And we've drafted a quarterback in Anthony Richardson that many people, experts included, much smarter than me, perhaps even much smarter than you, view as a project quarterback. Does the dialogue around Chris Ballard's job security change at all? Does the very fact that everyone expects Anthony Richardson to take just a little bit of time loosen that leash on Ballard at all? And if it does, that actually does beg the question, was it ever even justified to call for his job to begin with? So those two observations and questions are kind of what I have today's entire episode really focused on, I guess, and revolving around, right? So let's get into it. But before we do, I do want to introduce myself. If you're here for the first time, welcome. My name is Justin. This is the Ryan the Bench Colts cast. I record from my bedroom, give it to you, and then hopefully you enjoy it. I do ask one favor of anyone that's here that is enjoying it or watches a little bit longer and then starts enjoying it. If you could just shoot the video a like. Takes 2 seconds, helps me get out to as many people as humanly possible. If you really, really, really like it, then you could subscribe, and I'd be very grateful for that. But ultimately, I'm just out here trying to put a product that you enjoy out. I'm trying to get better, a product that I'm proud of or want to be proud of. Not that I'm not proud of it now, but I want to continue to build on that, right? Build on what I'm doing here. And that's really my goal here, for you to enjoy it. Point being, Patty Mac jersey on. Let's get into it. Oh, sidebar, Patty Mac. Congratulations to Patty Mac on that ESPN deal. On a very serious note, if I could digress from the episode just a smidge longer, I have no delusions about the size of my channel, but the sheer fact that I am willing to come to this channel, talk about the Colts, with my bed in my background and a mess on the couch behind me with no pants on. That's the part that you can't see, right? The fact that I feel like I can do that, not wear a suit and not have to go through the journalism background and the whole bit, part of that has to do with Pat McAfee. So awesome representation, a plus that he was, a Colts guy, true pioneer. Pat McAfee will never see me talking about this. But point being is that thank you, Pat McAfee, for inspiring me to come do this, really, in many ways. So back to the episode, back to why you clicked the video. I'm sorry. You get to know me a little bit, right? So what do you think of Ballard, for starters? Did I ask that top of the show? If not, please put a comment. Want to hear your perspective, right? Were you a Ballard guy, and then maybe you weren't? Or have you changed your mind after the draft? Have you always been a Ballard guy? Curious to hear your stance on this. Now, I personally could talk until I'm blue in the face about the reasons I like Chris Ballard, but I'll spare you that. Ultimately, what I've found when I talk to people, and when I say talk to people, I mean get into arguments in the comment section with people about Chris Ballard, the primary difference between me and them, or them and I, proper English anyone, is I view Andrew Luck's retirement as a pretty solid excuse up to this point. In fact, I view it as an extremely valid excuse as a reason to explain some of the hardships that the Colts have been through as of late. I mean, that was an absolutely unprecedented situation, and I think deserves to be treated as such, uniquely as such even, right? Now, that excuse is only valid under a very specific set of circumstances. That was your franchise quarterback retiring right in the middle of his prime when you had a win-now roster, and really on top of it all, what really is the kicker for me is that had never happened before. There was no playbook, right? There if you want to learn, right? If you're trying to do something, one way to learn how to do something is to look up how to do it and then read what other people have done in that situation, right? And ultimately, you could get some wisdom that you would have ultimately had to learn yourself, and instead you get it from those who have already gone through the trials and hardships. This was not something that the Colts were able to do, right? So they were writing the script coming out of that luck situation. Now, they ultimately decided to go the rental quarterback route. Now, we didn't hate that early on, right? We liked the idea of getting Rivers. I didn't like the idea, right, of some of the things we did. I mean, especially bringing in a guy like Carson Wentz, right, who couldn't even motivate a baby to go suck on his mom's nipple. And then you parlay that into Matt Ryan, who couldn't take the diaper off of that same baby, throw it 3 feet into the garbage pail, right, because it was too far. Was that predetermined bit? You'll never know. So it really is these past 2 seasons that I think really have raised the blood pressure of Colts Nation, like tremendously. I think before that, I don't think everyone was that mad. Am I wrong about that? Now, given I believe that to be true, even I, the most stubborn of Ballard supporters, has to take a look at this on the other side, look at what we have in front of us and say, well, where are the lingering pieces of those Andrew Luck years now, right? I mean, this entire staff is different, and that really last year, right, when we fired Frank Reich, who's now coaching the Carolina Panthers, and there's nothing about this coaching staff that is the same as it was. And someone correct me if I'm wrong on that, by the way. The bottom finally came out from this team, right? We were kicking the can down the road on that rebuild. We were trying to plug and play with quarterback, right? There's been enough turnover on this roster now, and most importantly, we have finally drafted that young quarterback, right? So things have changed. So now let me ask you real quickly, though. Flip-flopping back and forth, back to Ballard supporter for me, right? Trying to look up this objectively. Suspend your disbelief with me for just a second, right? I want to compare Chris Ballard to Howie Roseman, who many view as the best GM in football. If you don't count each of their first 2 seasons as GM, and by I mean each of their first seasons as GM, right? And in my opinion, I think that's fair. GM usually takes over. They're picking up what the other guy left off. You don't have a full offseason. Team really not in your mold yet. It's actually a rule that many go by, that you don't judge GM's first season. If we follow that rule and then from there we compare their first 5 seasons, there's a lot of similarities between Howie Roseman and Chris Ballard. I mean, the record was identical. Identical. Bonus points to anyone who gets that movie reference. Please, I hope someone comments that movie reference. Hopefully I did a good enough impression. Oh, my ADHD is kicking. I don't even know if I have ADHD. Not fair to say that. But regardless, they had a lot of similarities. If not an identical record, almost the same exact one. And I know we're looking at a season where the Colts were just 4-12-1, and the Eagles were literally 4 points away from being Super Bowl champions. So you're probably saying, Justin, how could you possibly try to spin that into something like that, right? Well, let's not forget that Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson meltdown in Philly happened on Howie Roseman's watch. That wasn't without Howie Roseman, so it wasn't always sunny in Philadelphia, okay? That wasn't how that was going. And then came in Jalen Hurts, a raw, high-character running quarterback, really. I was about to say running back, that was willing to put in the work, right? Now this is starting to sound a little bit more like the Colts content that's been coming out lately, right? He put in that work with Shane Steichen. Now, I'll let you fill in the blanks as to where that brings us now, right? Now, I know that's not a one-to-one comparison. My point is, look at where the Eagles were a few years ago. How that thing was falling apart and looking like a complete disaster. Does anyone remember the headlines in Philly? By the way, this channel is a Colts channel and an Eagles channel. My buddy would know. My buddy Asif, the Ride on the Bench Eagles cast, he would remember what it was like when the world was crumbling on Philly, and now here we are just a few years later. Look how things have changed. So now let's circle that back around to Chris Ballard. My entire thought here is, given what I just said is true, and it is. That's undeniably the truth, okay? Now you could talk about the reasons why maybe it's not applicable here, so on and so forth, but that is true. And does that story, coupled with what I said at the top of the show, that we have the new coach, we have the very young project quarterback, should those things buy Chris Ballard any time? And me asking that is not like a proclamation that it should. Now, I'm sure based off of my tone this episode, you could figure out where I stand, right? I'm not sitting here and making it like I'm being completely unbiased, but I am asking the question. I'm open to the other side of it if you know what the other side is, right? Does it simply depend on the record or just how the season looks? Is that the context that you're looking for? Or do you think he should still be fired now, right? That's my question. I feel like those talks have died down, which is why I've made this episode, right? And I guess it comes down to the expectations next season, right? So what's considered good for the Indianapolis Colts and what's considered bad? So coming off of a 4-12-1 season, is 5 wins an improvement, right? Technically, 6 wins. I mean, I don't know. I'll tell you my expectations for the Colts this year, and maybe this is irrational, but I think between what we assume listen, no such thing as a real easy schedule in the NFL, right? But presumably as we look and we project, this isn't the hardest schedule in the league. You know, when you look at that, and then you look at Anthony Richardson, just the Swiss Army knife that he is, and then you bring him with JT, an offensive line that I think is going to get back to running the football, I'm looking at wild card, or at least playing meaningful football, sniffing maybe the outside looking in at the end of the season. That's kind of my expectation for the team. Let's say we hit that expectation, right? Well, really, let's go the other way. 4-12 or 4-13, whatever it is, that's just Ballard's done, right? I mean, even I think could probably say that. If we were to, I'd be shocked, by the way, this is not what I predict to happen. If the Colts were that bad next year, I say get rid of Ballard. But I think even if we don't make the playoffs, right? I think you got to give him another year under that. Are you with me there? Well, here's the thing that's for certain. Let me try to tie the episode in the bow here. No matter how you look at it, there's no question that even for us Ballard supporters, right? Me. Starting now, the clock is ticking, right? And that is the entire episode. Probably would it have been cooler if I just cut the episode right there and ended it there? Maybe. I don't know. Well, regardless, you've made it to the end of the episode. Congratulations. If you made it this far, you couldn't have hated it that much. Shoot a like right there. Well, please shoot a like right there. Look at me giving you demands. Oh, goodness, Justin, stop it. So if you enjoyed the video, really, I'd be grateful if you shot a like, if you subscribed, really trying to grow this thing, really trying to become a major player in the Colts community. I don't want to make a proclamation that I'm like the different one of the Colts community, but make no mistake, I do try to aim to have a slightly different approach here, mostly because I don't feel like I cover the news. I'm like pure opinions, speculation, discussion. I'm really not always trying to win on timeliness here. I do find that is what a couple people have told me is the unique thing about my channel, and I appreciate that. But now that I'm done bragging, right? What I say, like, subscribe. If you've done both of those things, you're looking for a way to help me out, if you could just share it with one person that likes the Colts as much as us, that'd be awesome. By us, I mean me and you, right? We're friends now. So, yeah, I'd say that's about it. And, yeah, I'm just rambling. So, until next time, my name is Justin. You just listened to the Ride in the Bench Colts Press.